Okay, so continuing on, where we left off are these tabs, and so each tab is actually called a ribbon, and this kind of whole thing is called a ribbon itself, but each tab is a ribbon. That's how they want to call it in Revit. So this is the architecture ribbon, structural ribbon, systems ribbon, and then each ribbon kind of has its own kind of like tube palette. So you can see here how there's kind of like breaks. So this is a palette, a tool palette. This is a tool palette, circulation tool palette, model tool palette. So it kind of has different palettes. So you can see from the architecture tab, you can start to add walls and doors and windows, everything like that. Circulation, you can put in stairs and ramps, model text and model lines. You can do. The thing with model lines is it's kind of like a 3D. It's a 3D geometry, and you can kind of read it if you ever hover over it. But so no matter what view you put a model line in, it'll show up in other views. And this is going to be different from what I show you in the annotate tab, which you'll see in a second. And I'll explain the difference there. So and then this is kind of how to add room tags and room areas. Work planes, if you're ever in another plane, you can always set it. This is more for if you're ever modeling yourself in 3D. You can see here how you can change a plane from, in this kind of hover, when I'm hovering over, initially the plane is flat, but they want to work off of the angle of the roof. So you can do that as well. But again, as I said, that's kind of when you're modeling yourself. A lot of stuff, you can see this component is how you bring in families. So that for a second. So component is what you use to bring in families, like furniture and stuff like that. But if you click on the little drop down, it has model in place, and this model in place is what can be used to kind of model your own type of stuff. So if you have like a unique custom piece of furniture or like a really unique kind of wall that you wanted to do, you can model it this way. But just to show you what I mean by a library is, if you click on component and go to load family, this is all the different types of categories that come within the contents library of Revit, and you can play through those. And some of these have to be loaded in certain spaces, like the structural stuff has to be loaded through the structural tab, and I'll see and I'll show you that in a minute. But you can click on furniture, and then you can go through to see all the types of stuff that comes with within Revit itself. Then, like I said, if something's not here that you want, first I would go look for it on either Revit City or Autodesk Seek. Then you can bring it in, and you can change it if you needed to kind of match what you're actually looking for before you try to start to build it on your own. So that's a lot of the architecture ribbon. I'll probably get, once I start to actually show you how to do walls and stuff like this, I'll get into more of these, in more detail to kind of actually show you what they are. This level tab is actually how you would add more levels, which are technically floor plans. But you can see here how right now I have a first, second, and a roof set up. But if you wanted to add a third floor, say you wanted to add a third floor, what you would do is you either in elevation or section, you'll actually see the levels that have already been created. And this is where you can change the heights of levels. So you can see right now, and this will change as I actually create the site for you guys. I'll probably start to change these levels a little bit. But you can see, ground is at 0. First floor is 2 feet above ground, and then they start to go up. And then if you ever wanted to change a height, you can do one of two things. If you click on the level itself, you can just click on the dimension down here, and it'll move up 3 feet. Or you can always just click on the number itself and change it. I can change this to 6 feet. But take note, this 16 feet is from this elevation. So this is 0, 0, and that's at 16. So that means it's 16 above here and only 14 feet above here, because it's always referring back to the 0, 0 point. So if I click on this, you can see that it's 14 and then 2 here. And then to ever add a new level, you would just click on level. You can draw it you can put it in. And then you can see here how it came on that side. I can just always, if I click on the line itself, I can uncheck, or check, and then it'll move the tag to wherever it needs to be. Then you can put in a dimension, rename it something, and then you would find out. Usually when I put it in, let's see where this came in. And then you can see how, since I drew this level in the elevation under the architecture tab in construction documents, it knows to put it there as well. So you see level 14, and then if I ever change the name of this, say if I did a 105 third floor, it's going to ask me if I want to update all the views, and that just means that it'll change the name here for you. So you can see now that the same name is there. So that's how you would add another level if you ever needed to. And again, those have to be done in either elevation or section. Obviously, you can see, like, if you're ever in a floor plan, the level is grayed out, and then even in 3D, level is grayed out, and then but if you go into a section, again, you can start to see the actual different levels. That's where you can start to actually see all the levels themselves. And then again, later in the video is when I'll go through the tree for how all the drawings are set up, so you can kind of familiarize yourself with that and how that's going to work. But actually, let me get back to a floor plan first. For now, while we're going through this stuff, the structure tab and ribbon itself, probably going to be more used when we get to the second part of the kind of the bigger project and not the kiosk project. But this is what you use to add in structures like beams and columns and structural walls, like foundation walls and stuff like that, foundation footings and anything like that. And then if you click on a beam, some stuff that I've already loaded in for when I did things. But then you can also load family, and go to the structural framing tab, and this is where you can load in more types of steel components or wood or any type of structural component that you're using. It's so that, and there's a whole bunch of different things, and as I said, in later videos I'll probably go into more detail of these tabs and how to work with them themselves. Systems is kind of just like structure, but obviously it's for systems. So you have your HVAC, your plumbing, and your electrical, and then different types of ducts and everything like that. Plumbing fixtures, piping. The one thing that I do want to mention about plumbing fixtures is if I click on a plumbing fixture and hit load, there's actually two types. So if I hit load and I go to plumbing, you can see there's architectural and MEP. If you hit architectural and bring in something like a toilet or a sink, it comes in basic, with just the architectural 3D model of it. But when you hit MEP and you bring in a fixture using the MEP folder, it's going to have connections for plumbing pipes and and stuff that you can kind of just start to put pipes in. So it may be wise if you start to put fixtures in any of your buildings, kind of later on in this semester. Just go ahead and use the stuff from the MEP side to begin with, just so you don't have to go back later on and update it to use an MEP fixture. So you get the piping offsets. And like what I can mean by that is, I don't know if I have a toilet already loaded. That will have it. Now if I go to 3D, so if I did this as just an architectural one through the architectural tab, it would just be like that. But since I loaded it through MEP, when I click on it now, I get the options to add pipe work to it, and that could help. And that's obviously needed later on in the semester when we get to add in plumbing systems and stuff like that. But again, that's something that I'll get into more detail when we get to that portion of the semester. I actually have videos that show you how to do plumbing work. The insert tab is how to is where you can actually insert images, import CAD, link Revit's other Revit files or link CAD files. The link Revit option I'm actually going to show in tutorial B because it's always a good idea to link your site file with a file of just your building, so it kind of flows better, and I'll explain what I mean by that in tutorial B. But you can import images, so like if you're kind of getting your boards ready for a presentation or something like that, you can just quickly insert an image and have it laid out in Revit already. If you click import CAD, you can see the types of CAD that you can actually import that are compatible with Revit. So you can see SketchUp and DWG files come in automatic. They're already compatible with Revit, so you can bring those in right away. This load family is actually, it's similar to, if I go back to the architecture tab, it's similar to where I hit component in load family. But you can see what happens here. So like say if I do component load family and try to bring in a structural framing element, and I'm just going to click a random one, it's going to say I'm in the wrong place. And that's because I'm not in the correct family. Obviously, I probably should have been in structure beam, and if I did it that way, it would work. If I beam load family, it would work that way. But what this insert load family is, it's kind of just like a generic load family option. So I can basically load anything I want from any folder, and it'll come in and it'll show up in the right spot. So like if I loaded a structural framing element through this option, when I go back and hit beam now, that would appear there. So if you're ever trying to load something in, but you're having a hard time finding the right kind of family that it should be in, you can just use this insert, load it, generically load it in, and then you can try to find it through there. The annotate tab is kind of a special tab in a sense that this tab is the one tab in Ribbon where everything that's created here is just 2D. So basically anything you add from this tab, it's going to be in 2D and just the view that you do it in. So like if I put text here, it will not show up in any other floor. Now you can copy and paste this into another floor, but obviously it's not there. But I can click on this and hit copy and paste it to the first floor, and now it's in the first floor. But it's something that it never comes in. So anything that you put through this annotate tab, it's always just in whatever view that you're working on. That's where it's going to be. And this is what's different between detail line and the model line tab. So if you were ever to draw a detail line, it only shows up in whatever view that you're drawing. So I just drew a box using a detail line. It's just in this view, in the second floor view. If I go to first floor, it's not there. But now if I went to the architecture tab and do a model line, I'm going to do a diagonal model line. And then if I go back to first floor, I can see, if I zoomed in, I got to zoom to it, find it. But the actual model line itself is now in that view. Let me try to find it. See if I can find it. It's somewhere in there. But so that's the difference between a model line and a detail line. And then you can also see if I do hit detail line or even a model line. So when I hit line, there's always I have different types of lines that you can bring in. Some of them I've already created, like this sketch line is something that I've created, so it comes in red, so you can kind of draw something to sketch it that way. My time's actually going to run out on this video, so I'm going to stop here and then continue on from this point in the next video.